Hello Straters, welcome back. I'm Binkabi and this will be the fourth match of this Legacy tournament, and it will be Infect against Bug StifleNought, or if you so prefer, Sultai StifleNought, if that sounds better to you. It's the same Infect deck as the previous match. So we will see if he can squeak out another victory here. Turn 1 Dried Arbor, not the most explosive of starts. Still quite good. But we have a turn 1 Delver, and that's also pretty good. Depending on whether or not it's flipping, of course. And there we have an Inkmoth Nexus. And a Noble Hierarch, okay. So now it could be risky to attack. The Bug deck runs Abrupt Decay as their main weapon, so Inkmoth Nexus is a pretty big concern actually. They have Wastelands for that, but I guess now you could block with Delver. You're not racing an Inkmoth Nexus, that's not gonna happen. So that one is probably gonna stay back, the Insectile Aberration. Here's a Dreadnought, probably followed up with a Stifle, yeah. It's kinda bad otherwise. So now we're looking at a potential 2-turn clock, depending on what Daniel can muster. Is that a Piracy Charm? That could be really good if we have... Oh, we do have blue mana actually. Because I do think it can give Island Walk, right? It's like plus something, -1, Island Walk, and something else. It's not the most common card. But it could do some work. It could also have killed the Delver if blue mana was available on turn 1. Let's see here. Yeah, Island Walk +2, -1, or discard a card. Alright. So now a big question is what we are going to do, because the Phyrexian Dreadnought will rumble in for 12 next turn. So you need to put 5 toughness in front of it between the 2 turns to survive. Or if you can conjure up a big Infect creature, you could shrink it to get additional turns. But that also costs additional resources. I wouldn't be surprised here if we saw an Abrupt Decay on the Noble Hierarch, since that's the only blue source at the moment, and the Exalted could actually matter a lot. Yeah, and since the Abrupt Decay doesn't have another target, I think this line makes a lot of sense. So yeah, Noble Hierarch will bite the dust. And the Dreadnought will rumble in for a lot of damage. So let's see if Daniel can muster something here, because he needs to win right now. And I think without blue mana that will be hard. I do see a crop rotation. So you can activate Inkmoth, crop rotate, Piracy Charm. I think it's an Invigorate, but I don't think that's enough. You kinda need a Berserk too, right? Yeah, it doesn't seem like the hand has what it needs to get there, but we will see. Stranger things have happened. I guess with the Invigorate it could actually stay alive for one more turn, but still don't think that's good. So not very much interaction in this game, I have to say. So yeah, it looks like we will have a scoop and we will be going to game 2. Alright, game 2. Infect and bug StifleNought. I've always been very interested in the StifleNought decks because in my world using two cards just to get a large threat into play seems so bad, when you can do something like Show and Tell Emrakul, which is basically 2 cards for a threat but a much bigger threat. But it works surprisingly well, I have to say. Since the Stifle is so versatile in the format to begin with, you don't have to use it on your Phyrexian and Dreadnoughts, so it's quite good actually. So here we have the Noble Hierarch start, and I see Spell Pierce, Berserk, I think maybe another or rather a Glistener Elf. Yeah, but no second land. But with the Spell Pierce we could see something here. I guess with only Berserk as a palm spell that's not good. There's a Disfigure. That's gonna prompt the Spell Pierce. I kinda like that play actually. Of course there is a Flusterstorm, but I kinda like it anyway because your Spell Pierce is rapidly losing value since your opponent is making land drops and you're not. And that seems like a pretty good time to use it. So here we'll have a Blighted Agent, leaving Submerge and Berserk in hand. I'm not certain how good Submerge is in the matchup. Feels like you should win before that comes into effect. Force of Will will take care of Blighted Agent, which should indicate that the bug player is out of removal, or at least out of removal that he would like to use. If you had an Abrupt Decay, for example, I think that would be that could be another story. Another Ponder here, pretty good, and a Deathrite Shaman. They close out the distance faster than you care to admit, I think. It feels pretty bad when your opponent just sitting there with a Deathrite Shaman. So another trop here for Infect. Just a thinning thing here. If you're gonna use Submerge here, I think this line is okay. Otherwise, if you plan on not using Submerge, I think it's better to keep the fetch around. But we're gonna see a Submerge here. There's no real advantage on using it end step either. You could do it on your turn. So Noble Hierarch will come in for 1, indicating a severe lack of action, I have to say. So yeah, the Submerge was basically Time Walk. Now Noble Hierarch cannot attack, but that's fine. We picked up a Vines of the Vastwood and a Force of Will. Another good reason to keep Submerge in hand, I think. So now it's time for the Deathrite Shaman to do its thing. How many spells do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. So 2 more spells is required for the Deathrite to be lethal. but I don't think that's a very big problem. Brainstorm will be cast here. No fetch land in sight just yet, but if you have a really good hand, that doesn't really matter all that much. Seems like a wasteland though. We have an activation and Vines of the Vastwood. Flusterstorm, that should be for 3. Otherwise you could have tapped the Inkmoth to activate itself to have 1 more mana, but that wouldn't be enough for Flusterstorm anyway. So Inkmoth will actually bite the dust here. Another force, so force, berserk for the Infect. So they actually need quite a lot. They need a creature and invigorate to finish this off. And the bug player has quite the hand, I think. It's a lot of cards at least. And no land drop indicates more spells, obviously. We could have seen an attack here from the Noble Hierarch past the Deathrite, but it's more or less trading water. It doesn't really do anything. Oh, a Brainstorm. That's a good draw. That could be something to fight over actually, but no, Invigorate, Inkmoth. Well, you pretty much don't have to draw more cards. It's a crop rotation too. Yeah, that's quite a Brainstorm. So this turn you can land Inkmoth and have crop rotation ready. But then you have to shuffle away a card. Yeah, you can probably do this. The next turn you have the win if the Inkmoth sticks, and if it doesn't, then in 2 turns you will have a new Inkmoth Nexus. And Inkmoth is the supreme, yeah, there's an abrupt decay, the supreme threat in this matchup. So Deathrite is picking away, 10 life right now. If we can find any other threat here, a Delver or anything, that's pretty good. So there is the second wasteland. No crop rotation unfortunately here, but I mean, you could have kept crop rotation in hand just in case of a wasteland. And then this turn draw a random card, but that might be too bad. So now you will go to 6 and then crop rotate, go to 4 and then win. So 2 damage is all that matters here. At least we know it. So if Sultai can find a way to deal 2 more damage, just another death right here would do it actually. Or actually no, it will not, because next turn will be the turn. That could have been a good spot to crop or to brainstorm if you had one. I could actually, yeah, if you could, you should probably count that that crop rotation. Since then the Infect player untaps with no threats, and you get them to 4 and then to 0. So that seems like a pretty good line. So this is an activation, and it looks like we will have a response. Yeah. So there is the brainstorm. Because I don't think that you would counter a brainstorm end of turn in response to the crop rotation necessarily, but you would maybe counter this. I mean, you know that your opponent can't have that many answers to your Inkmoth Nexus. Does look like we will have a Force of Will here. Yeah. So that means that the Inkmoth is actually lethal unless Sultai StifleNought has an answer to it in some way. A Force of Will would do it. A Spell Pierce would actually do it as well. Yeah, a Spell Pierce would actually do it too. Flusterstorm would certainly do it. So yeah, any counter spell here would do it. Yeah, there's the attack, and there is no reason not to go for it since you're dead otherwise. Exalted, sure. Actually, Disfigure does it too. There's the Invigorate and Berserk. And we are gonna go to game 3. Time for game 3 then, between Infect and Sultai StifleNought. We saw Infect just barely getting there the previous game, so with Sultai on the draw, this could be very interesting here. Both players are starting out with tropicals. One is black bordered and one is white bordered, and I think we can agree which one is the best, even though they tap for the same amount of mana. Dark Confidant. That's a pretty interesting card because it kind of demands an answer in some way. Otherwise, the Sultai player will draw way too much interaction. So we will see a brainstorm here. To try to answer the Dark Confidant, I would assume. It looks like we will follow that up with a Blighted Agent next turn, potentially. The Submerge is still in, and I guess that's quite a gamble, I think, because it doesn't do much, but I guess it can bounce a pesky blocker as well. So Submerge will in fact deal with Dark Confidant temporarily, and we will have Inkmoth and Blighted Agent, so it's a double threat here on turn 2 for Infect. And I see Invigorate, and I think it was a Brainstorm. And a Windswept Heath and Force of Will, so we will just have a pass here. No Dark Confidant is coming down. If you're gonna take out Blighted Agent, you might as well do it on your turn, I think. Kick the Vines of the Vastwood would be pretty bad, but that doesn't look like the plan for this turn. Oh, did we draw double Vines? So it looks like we're gonna shuffle away Inkmoth, Windswept Heath, and I think that's quite alright. Could also be right to Abrupt Decay in response to the fetch here, if you do have an abrupt decay, of course. So only Blighted Agent will hit the red zone. We're gonna take a poison. Alright. So probably doesn't want to get into a fight in combat. Rather, yeah, using a spell end of turn. And it's actually a Golgari Charm, so if the Inkmoth would have been fired up to play around Abrupt Decay, this Golgari Charm would have been pretty bad. So yeah, it's not much that the Infect player needs here to be able to win. No Wasteland this turn either, so we have Invigorate and Inkmoth, that's 5. Together with the one that's already dealt is 6. So a land would do it, potentially. No, I don't think you can fire it off. Star Confidant will actually be activated as Stifle. Not the best answer to an Inkmoth Nexus, but still could get the job done here. Star Confidant will come into the red zone, attacking for 2. It's not a super fast clock, but it will do the trick eventually. So we have Force, Vines, Invigorate, Crows and Grip. Crows and Grip will be good if a Dreadnought makes an appearance here, which it will. So next turn Crows and Grip can take care of the Dreadnought. Oh, a land. Are we gonna go for it? I think if you had... yeah, it could actually be correct to go for it here. But we're gonna see a Crows and Grip, the more conservative play, which is fine. I think if the Infect player had another blue card, he would probably have gone for it. Because then you can just fire up Inkmoth, attack, Invigorate, and then decide if you want to kick Vines of the Vastwood. If your opponent has something like this figure, well, then it's kinda forced, and it's not much else they could run. They could run like Murder's Cut, maybe. That could be a thing. Yeah, it could have been correct to go for it there, but there is a lot of scenarios where it goes horribly wrong. Like for example, they have a Force of Will and you only get them to like 5 or 6, and then they hit back for 14 and then you're pretty dead. So I'm not certain, but it's an option at least to go for it there. All we're gonna see this turn is a Ponder and an attack, so probably want to keep as many answers as possible open here. Maybe a Flusterstorm, maybe a Spell Pierce of some sort. Spell Snare could be a thing. That's a Glistener Elf. I would probably not play it pre-combat, is my guess, if you're gonna attack with Inkmoth. Looks like we are. There's no real advantage to playing it pre-combat. Trickbind. That could make another Dreadnought be able to enter the battlefield here. It will make the Sultai player completely tapped out though. And that's a big risk. Ah, we have a 4th land. Yeah, so if you could probably play Dreadnought, Trick Bind and keep a Flusterstorm up and be in decent shape. Could you even Flusterstorm and Invigorate? No. No, you could not. You could Flusterstorm a 2nd Invigorate, or a 2nd spell, but not the 1st. So right now, Invigorate is 1 short of being lethal. And I guess the Dreadnought would actually block. Ooh, the 2nd Force. This is really good. Yeah, Inkmoth is just lethal now. The only thing that I can see being a save here is Flusterstorm, specifically. Force, okay. Yeah, I guess double Force would also do it. Or rather, double a Force of Will and a Flusterstorm would also do it. And if this is not a kill, then we're looking at blocking with Glistener Elf and pumping it. Yeah, the Force is kind of forced here. 2nd Force, yeah, that's bad. Then we will see a grand total of 1. But it's still not over. I mean, we could see a top decked Berserk would not do it actually. But another Invigorate, Crows and Grip would be an extra turn, I suppose. 1 card in hand left. Yeah, so all of this will resolve, and that means just 1 poison is coming over. So now we're looking at blocking with Glistener Elf and well, that's an Abrupt Decay. That will make it very hard to survive. Unless you just fire it off right away. That's not a good play. Now, if he had just attacked, yeah, if he had just attacked, that would have been game. So now he's actually giving his opponent an additional draw step here, which is not something you want to do against Infect. Yeah, Invigorate does it. Noble Hierarch, no, it does not do it. Become Immense certainly does it. Brainstorm could also do it. So there's a lot of outs here actually. So yeah, down to 2. Dreadnought shrinks, but that doesn't really matter. I wonder if we have something in hand. I mean, if you had anything to counter Vines, you would have done so. And the top deck is... didn't see. Is it good? Well, we're firing up Inkmoth. We're kicking. But that's it. Alright. Then Sultai will win 2-1. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, it really helps us out. You can find us on Twitter at MagicGathStrat, Facebook /MagicGatheringStrat, or on the web, magicgatheringstrat.com. There you can find articles and free prize-supported leagues. This is all brought to you by our Patreons and cardhoarder.com. If you enjoyed this content, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/magicgatheringstrat.